I'd call the head of Ford or whatever company, but I'd call the head of Ford. I'd say, congratulations. I understand you're building a massive plant in Mexico, and you're taking a lot of jobs away from us in Michigan and other places. No, I don't like that. So what I'd say is the following. I don't want you to do that. And if you do it, you're not going to have any cars coming across the border unless you pay a 35% tax. That's it. That's it.
Donald Trump putting companies on notice if he becomes president, telling them if you move manufacturing down to Mexico, get ready to pay up. And Jonas, you say that Donald's got it right?
It sounds vaguely Bernie Sanders-y, and on the surface, it definitely looks like it would start a trade war. It probably is a NAFTA violation. We'd have reciprocating taxes and tariffs. It would be terrible for the economy. However, it's not a free market if you move a factory someplace to avoid domestic costs, regulations, environmental rules. So you can equalize that kind of maneuver with tariffs and taxes to bring those, because they don't want to have those rules in Mexico or whatever. And then it is a free market. Again, you wouldn't need that tax or tariff with Japan or Germany or Sweden, because they play by the rules that we play by and large. But some of these other countries, they're literally taking our jobs by dodging U.S. regulations, and that's not a free market. So he's had a little right on this if you really get into it.
Susie, don't we have to think about the consumers in this? Is Donald Trump thinking about them?
Oh, them, the consumers? You know, I agreed with Jonas as he was talking about how Bernie Sanders might like this. I think that this is a great idea if you're a Democrat and you don't believe in globalization and what free markets do. And I think that, you know, this is very perplexing to me because I disagree with you, Jonas. I do think that ultimately what will happen in this state, in this situation, if he calls up the guy and says, you know, you got to keep your factory, sort of works as sort of a backroom deal with him, is that of course what will happen is the car companies are not going to eat those costs. Those costs are going to go on to the end consumer, who will then say, well, this car is too expensive and I'm going to go buy a car made in Japan. And the jobs that he saved in Michigan are going to not hang around very long. So I don't know. I mean, the thing this makes me wonder about is Donald Trump talks about his business experience, but real estate is really a sort of different thing. I mean, real estate is a beast unto itself, and I'm not so sure he looks at business the way somebody who has run factories and plants and companies does, because this is, to me, sort of off the reservation.
Okay, let's talk about this specific idea. We've had many, both of you have said that Democrats and Bernie Sanders might like this. Let's go to a Democrat. Jammu, do you like this?
Well, I think if Donald Trump was president, he'd be the first person whose call was actually not picked up. I wish this was a sign that Republicans were making a shift to support labor. I wish this was a sign of...
Well, does it, though? I mean,
no,
he's basically putting a tax on companies who move their business overseas.
This is Donald Trump playing to a particular part of the Republican voters that are
So you don't
looking
support
for
this?
I don't support it coming from someone who actually I agree with Susie. I don't actually think he really understands what he's talking about. So this commitment, the phone call that would be made, this is all just a fantasy.
Well, okay, I'm surprised about that because there's been a lot of talk from Democrats about outsourcing and moving elsewhere. Gary B., what do you think about this?
A couple things. I think if Obama had said this, Jammu would be saying this is the greatest thing in the world because it's going to protect those union jobs. And that's exactly what it's going to do. Susie had it right. Look, it's going to protect the jobs, absolutely, in the Ford and GM factories. But who pays the penalty? Look, the whole reason Ford wants to outsource, it's not arbitrage. They just want to lower their costs. And if they don't do it, someone else will go to Mexico. What are those lower costs? Look, if I'm paying $2,000 less for a car and me and a million other people buying Ford vehicles are paying $2,000 less, that's $2,000 more in my pocket that I can go out and spend on Starbucks and go to the Kroger and stuff like that. That money goes back into the economy and helps create jobs. So Donald Trump in this case is being an idiot. He's looking at the few in disrespect for the many.
Okay, let's just talk about this idea. I'm sorry, I want to get John in here. John?
Yeah, look, we tried this before. Smoot-Hawley back in the late 20s put us just into a further recession, into a depression. I'm not going to mention Andrew Jackson again because Gary B will yell at me. But look, dealing with companies that go overseas, that is the symptom. The problem that Mr. Trump is right about, I don't agree with this tax. The problem that is America is not becoming competitive. It's becoming uncompetitive. Look at the tech companies that are moving to Ireland because they don't have this punitive tax code. Look at companies that are moving out of this country because they don't have to deal with needless compliance and needless regulation. We need tort reform. We need loser pays on frivolous lawsuits. And because of that, it is becoming uncompetitive to do business in the United States. I don't agree with the tax, but I agree with the motive behind it.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Cashing in just over an hour from now. Eric, what do you guys have coming up?
Hi, Brenda. Illegal immigration activists bashing Donald Trump's plan to build a wall. Is the Pope also planning to bash that plan when he visits America next week? Plus, the president saying you're better off under his reign, but your paycheck may be saying something completely different. We do the math. You decide. See you at 11:30 Eastern.
You absolutely will. We'll be watching. But up here first, remember this.
If it's undecided when I become president, I will answer your question.
That was Hillary Clinton on Keystone then. This is her now.
I am putting the White House on notice. I'm going to tell you what I think soon.
But some here say, for Pete's sake, why wait? Approve it now for the sake of jobs. Are they right?